What's going on, everybody? It's Frito here for Your Overwatch. Echo is an incredible hero, and I think very strong, so much that I will expect numerous nerfs to be coming through before long, which makes making a guide on the hero a little bit difficult because I suspect a lot of this is subject to change, so keep that in mind. Also, we'll be breaking down streamers' gameplay, and as always, you can check out any of the streamers featured in the description. Getting into it, we're going to explain everything we've learned about Echo so far. Starting off with your ultimate, you instantly transform into an enemy hero. You can't do an ally. Jeff said this is because the wacky teamwork you could have was just too OP. And based on this limitation, your enemy can decide to swap their heroes, not during you duplicating them. They're disallowed from doing that, but they'll be incentivized to pick heroes that are weaker when duplicated because you instantly get all of their cooldowns. So characters that have long duration cooldowns like Batiste Immortality Field or Mercy Res can be good targets. But really, due to the massive buff on your ult generation while in duplication form, it goes up by 650%. You really want to copy a target that's got a strong ultimate, try to go ham quickly to charge it, and then use it immediately. Tanks are typically the best for this because they have more health and can utilize the fact that you can go in deep with it, since duplication is essentially an extra life. This is true in a few different ways. You can use duplicate in a pinch to transform into an enemy, and during the transformation there currently is a frame of invincibility. As you can see here, Tim is able to go in close range against this hog, which normally would be scary, but pop duplicate in time to dodge the hook, return his hog cooldown back on him, and while quickly doing damage, having his ultimate as well. Reinhardt getting duplicated feels this way, where landing a pin will give you like 90% ult, meaning you quickly can charge in. Since it acts as an extra life, when you're playing Reinhardt or Roadhog or whoever, you can play them more brazenly to push deep to set up for even bigger ultimates than you normally would, on top of having the potential of getting multiple in that 15-second time span. The output ceiling of this is incredible, meaning that even if you're killed while in duplication form, you'll just immediately transfer back into Echo where you're standing. Here, Seagull attempts to get away after going in deep, doesn't quite land the dodge, so he does die, but conversely, we can see XQC go in at close range against the Brig, a character that normally is quite troublesome for most DPS at close range, but after pounding out all of his cooldowns, uses duplicate to then be in an advantage in the 1v1, all the while in that form getting 650% ult charge generation. So there's a lot of different uses to duplicate and complex rules that I'm sure many of you are thinking about. Any character that has a deployable, like the Immo Field, or ultimates like Amplification Matrix or Bob, you only get one of them at a time, but due to its 15-second duration, you are able to get multiple ults no matter what character you are, really, even the slow building ones. The only limit really is on those deployable types where you only get one turret, one Bob. But more spammable ultimates, it is possible to get multiple. Yes, it is possible to replicate these types of things perfectly in testing. Perhaps you can get like 5-ish tracer bombs with one duplicate, but due to the chaos of playing against an enemy and when they have actual team comps, I think it's more realistic to expect 1, 2, 3 ultimate uses depending on who you copy. And of course, when you copy them, you need to be able to land their abilities in the mid-fight, so it heavily rewards game knowledge and skill on those other heroes to be able to pull them out quickly, almost hero gauntlet style, charge up their ult fast, and get value ASAP. With duplicate, you cannot target an enemy Echo, and Bob is untargetable. And speaking of targeting, there's a new option for Echo and Ana that you can switch on to require a confirmation press of your primary fire when selecting a target for either nano boost or duplicate, which will slow your reaction time down slightly, but allow you to be a bit more accurate when targeting those abilities so you don't accidentally duplicate or nano boost a character you don't want to. The potential of the duplicate ult is incredibly high for Overwatch for all sorts of things. It really has the power to swing fights back due to the flexibility to become any character you need in that given scenario. Even worst case scenario, it gives you the extra life component so it's good for stalling anyway, even if you get a bad target. And using it well will almost necessitate the enemy to have disable abilities like stuns or hack to slow you down while you're generating possibly multiple ultimates worth of value. Now, I wanted to break down her damage, at least as it is currently. In isolation, her abilities don't look that crazy, but when you realize that they all can be comboed together in one burst when done well, the damage output is immense. Her primary fire is the weakest of these, with a split of 3 projectiles that do 17 per pellet. If all 3 shots hit, that's 51 damage per shot, but they can headshot, which potentially doubles that to 102. For reference, this is quite a bit weaker than Genji or Doomfist, who have similar volleys of projectiles. Each Genji shuriken does 28 damage, and you can hit 3 of those at close range in a volley to the head, which is a ton of burst. Doomfist's hand cannon does 66 damage with all the pellets landing. So even among projectiles, this is quite low, but it doesn't have damage fall off, and I think it's relatively easy to land. The real crazy ability is sticky bombs that tosses out 6 bombs that do 5 damage on impact and 30 damage each. So if you land all 6, that's 210 damage. There is a delay period for them to explode, and they're a little difficult to hit, but when you consider the fact that she can fly to get good damage angles or apply these, then her primary fire, landing these plus your primary fire alone kills squishies instantly, and then she has another damage ability on top of this. Granted, her sticky bombs are harder to hit than Tracer's Pulse Bomb, but it's a little bit like Tracer's Pulse Bomb on cooldown. Shooting it feels a little bit similar to Torb's Molten Core, but it flies straight and attaches to enemies. So really, I would say Sticky Bombs is your primary damage ability. Tri-Shot is good for follow-up damage and poke. Combining them together can burst targets, but you even can go one step further to guarantee duels get one, or to tank bust when you add in Focusing Beam to the mix. Now, it's very important to realize that Focusing Beam is a finisher. You almost never want to use it beforehand because it only does 50 damage per second and locks you into a channeling animation. You can cancel it by pressing the button again, but you're better off just using your other damage abilities until you read that the enemy is at half health. This works on barriers and Mei walls as well, which once you see them start to get cracked, you can lay in the Focusing Beam to get its max potential, and its potential right now is kind of outrageous. When it targets at half health, Focusing Beam will do 200 damage per second. For reference, a full charge Zarya does 170 per second now. Full charge Symmetra at tier 3 does 180. And as far as a dive character being able to focus down a weak target goes, Genji can dash in to do 50 and then maybe 30 with a melee and then dash reset after that, but it's nowhere near as guaranteed of a delete button as Focusing Beam is. Once you learn not to use this ability early in a duel and instead save it after you've pounded out your other powerful attacks, there's basically nothing that can beat you in the whole game unless they stun you or disable you out of this. I mean, think about it. Genji's blade does 120 a slash, 180 with nano boost. This does 200 per second on a cooldown. You do need to get the target weak first, and if they get saved by, let's say, like a burst of healing with Ana's nade, you might be able to burst their life total above that 50% threshold so that the Focusing Beam does its lower impact damage value, but the player has most of the control to use this when it's good and just turn on the delete button on cooldown. Keep in mind it has 20 meters of range, which isn't long range admittedly, but it is at that golden Overwatch range, which means if the team fight is close by, you basically always can use it. And I haven't even mentioned yet that she can fly. So when you start to add some of these things up, the rest of her kit is like, I don't know, 5 to 10 times better than Pharah right now, and she can fly mostly just like Pharah. So her passive is similar to Mercy's, where she's allowed to float while falling. They call it glide, and it gives you a 50% speed boost when gliding horizontally, but her movement ability, Flight, allows her to move in a burst at 8 meters per second, and then she can float and fly around for 3 seconds. Now, the truth is, unless you have vertical cover, you're not going to want to just straight up fly because you're a floaty, slow moving, easy to hit target. But there's a little bit of a tech with this where you can get the burst of movement from flight, then immediately cancel it so you're not in the hover mode, which can allow you to quickly get away. We can see Seagull using that tech here, where he's a bit too close to the action, wants to run away, and is able to get a burst of movement with the jump in whatever direction you want. I've noticed that the burst and distance works better when you're jumping either up or diagonally. Then it feels like a budget Farah jump jet or Moira fade, without being able to fade out of existence, obviously. So being able to have really good control on this isn't just the ability to fly, but it's also a burst of movement that can be used to dodge, get around cover, and juke enemies. Not to mention flying just up in the air like Farah has its own advantages anyway. Here we can see Tim get an angle above the enemy's bunker, just like you'd want to do with the Rocket Queen, and from here he can lay down damage and get good angles for his sticky bombs, tri-bolt, and when he sees something low, go in for the kill with focusing beam. With the combo of her mid-fight abilities as is, she's the biggest nuker Overwatch has ever seen. I mean, when Ashe came out, she had quite a lot of damage capabilities, but nowhere close to the intensity that Echo is on the PTR launch. I don't mean to be alarmist and worry everybody about Echo's power level, but more so just flat out state that there's no doubt in my mind that she sees significant nerfs on the PTR, and without enough tuning, might still be a bit too strong and dominate the damage category. She does take quite a bit of skill to use, but so do most of the other DPS characters, right? And they don't have the stats that Echo's bringing to the table. My assumption would be they're gonna walk back both the ultimate, probably in duration, or ult charge rate intensity, and also the mid-fight damage number combos. I think right now it's tuned in a way where you don't even have to really hit the combos to still get kills anyway. The way I see it right now, you can use each attack in isolation to get a kill without needing to combo it, and then if you come up against a high HP character like a tank, putting them all together definitely kills a tank. Whereas I think more than likely they're going to tune it back where you have to combo them a bit more to get damage out of her. Otherwise, she's just straight up better than just about every damage I can think of, because her abilities are lethal, almost like Doomfists are, but she has way more control over her mobility, similar to Farah. So imagine if Farah had the burst potential of Doomfist. That's what Echo's like right now. I'm terrified, but I, for one, welcome our new Echo overlords. But that's everything for today's breakdown video. We'll be keeping you updated on the balance tweaks to the character, and then make a more detailed, in-depth advanced guide on how to play Echo when they start to iron out and bring her closer to a more reasonable position. But if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and hit the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news updates and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. We'll see you guys next time.